Can I ask you something that might sound a little strange?
Those are always my favorite kind.
Do you remember the first book that made you feel less alone?
Yes, I remember exactly where I was when I read it, what the light looked like, how the page felt.
Me too. And I have been thinking about that feeling lately, about what reading actually does to you. Not just what you learn from it, but what it does to you, quietly, over time, without you noticing.
Welcome to Ease English Podcast, where you learn English through real conversation. Today we are going somewhere slower than usual, somewhere quieter.
We are talking about reading, the effect of it, the science behind it, and the parts that science cannot quite explain. This episode is B1, B2 level, perfect for intermediate English learners who want to improve their spoken English while we sit with something that matters. Put your headphones in, find a comfortable spot, and just listen.
Let's begin.
So, I want to start with something personal, because I think the science lands differently when you already feel it in your body.
Go ahead.
I was about 13, and I was going through a period, I think most people have one, where everything felt too loud and too crowded, and I could not find a quiet place anywhere. Not at school, not at home, not inside my own head.
That age.
That age, exactly. And someone, I don't even remember who, gave me a book, just handed it to me, said nothing about it, just here.
And?
I read it in 2 days, and when I finished it, I sat there and I thought, there is someone in the world who felt exactly what I feel, who put it into words, who sent it out into the world so that years later a 13-year-old girl in a noisy house could find it and feel found.
Found. That's the right word.
It's the only word.
And what you felt at 13, that feeling of being found, researchers have actually studied it. There's a concept called bibliotherapy, the idea that books can function as a form of emotional healing. And it's not just poetic language, it's measurable. A 2009 study at the University of Sussex found that reading reduces stress levels by up to 68%, more effectively than music, more effectively than a walk, more effectively than a cup of tea.
68% from reading?
68. And it takes as little as 6 minutes of reading to begin seeing the effect. 6 minutes for the heart rate to slow, for the muscles to release, for the mind to enter something quieter.
Because you're not in your own life anymore.
Because you're somewhere else. And somewhere else, even a fictional somewhere else, gives the nervous system real, genuine relief. The brain doesn't fully distinguish between a real experience and one vividly imagined. When you're deep inside a book, you're neurologically inside another life.
That's extraordinary and slightly terrifying in the best possible way.
The best possible way.
Okay, but let's talk about something I find even more fascinating. What reading does to the way you understand other people.
Theory of mind.
Yes, explain that, because I want everyone listening to really understand this one.
So, theory of mind is the ability to understand that other people have their own thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and experiences that are completely separate from yours. It sounds obvious, but it's actually a sophisticated cognitive skill. And research shows, consistently across many studies, that people who read fiction regularly score significantly higher on theory of mind measures than people who don't.
So, reading fiction makes you better at understanding other people.
Not just better at imagining it, better at actually doing it. A landmark study found that fiction readers score higher on the reading the mind in the eyes test, which measures your ability to understand someone's emotional state just from looking at their face. Fiction readers were measurably better at reading human emotion than non-readers, even when controlling for age, personality, intelligence.
So every time you inhabit a character, every time you live inside a perspective that's not yours, you're practicing empathy. Literally, practicing it like a muscle.
Like a muscle. And the research from a 2025 study puts it beautifully. Feelings of empathy gained from fiction can transfer beyond the book to real-life others. The practice doesn't stay inside the pages. It comes with you.
It comes with you into every conversation you have, every relationship, every moment when someone needs you to understand something you haven't personally experienced.
And you can, because you've lived it in a book.
That's not a small thing.
It's not a small thing at all.
This is your English practice moment. Drop a comment right now. Tell us, do you remember the first book that made you feel something? A story that stayed with you? A character you never forgot? We read every single comment, and we genuinely want to know. Your answer is your English practice today, and it might be exactly what someone else listening needed to hear.
Now let's talk about something that's especially relevant for every English learner listening to this right now.
What reading does to language?
What reading does to language. Because this one is direct, measurable, and honestly a little mind-bending. Research consistently shows that reading comprehension and vocabulary knowledge grow together. They're deeply, inseparably linked. A student with greater reading comprehension almost always has a larger vocabulary. And a larger vocabulary makes reading deeper and richer. They build each other.
It's a circle, a very good circle.
The best kind of circle. And here's the thing about vocabulary that most language learners don't fully understand. You don't learn words by memorizing lists. You learn words by meeting them in context, by seeing them doing real work in a real sentence, by understanding not just what they mean, but how they feel, what weight they carry, what company they keep.
And reading gives you that. You don't just meet the word devastated, you feel it, because the character you've been living with for 200 pages just lost something that mattered. And devastated isn't a definition anymore, it's an experience.
That's exactly right. And that's why people who read regularly in English don't just have bigger vocabularies, they speak differently, more precisely, more vividly. They reach for the right word more naturally because they've encountered it more often, in more contexts, across more emotional registers.
They haven't studied English, they've lived in it.
For as little as 20 minutes a day. That's all the research requires to show significant improvement in vocabulary and comprehension. 20 minutes, one chapter, a few pages before sleep.
Can we talk about something that does not get mentioned enough when people talk about reading?
What is that?
The people who used to read and stopped.
Oh.
Because I think that is most people. I think most people have a version of themselves who loved reading, who could lose a whole afternoon in a book without guilt. And then life arrived, busier, louder, faster, and the books moved to the bedside table, and then to the shelf, and then the shelf became decoration.
A very beautiful, very guilty decoration.
The guiltiest bookshelf in the world is the one full of books you bought with every intention of reading and somehow never opened.
I have one of those.
We all have one of those, and I think people feel ashamed about it, like they failed some kind of reading exam, but the research actually says something kinder than that.
It does. A 2024 study on the psychological effects of reading found something beautiful. People who return to reading after a long break experience something called nostalgia-driven re-engagement. The familiar comfort of a book, the physical weight of it, the smell of the pages, the act of turning them triggers positive emotional memories that make re-engagement feel like coming home rather than starting over.
Coming home rather than starting over.
You are not beginning again. You are returning, and returning is always easier than beginning.
So if you're someone listening right now who has that bookshelf, that beautiful, guilty bookshelf, you're not behind. You're not broken. You're just between chapters.
Between chapters. And the next one is waiting whenever you're ready.
Okay, word spotlight time. Let's build your English vocabulary with the key words from today's episode.
Bibliotherapy. The use of books and reading as a form of therapy to reduce stress, process emotions, and improve mental well-being.
Bibliotherapy. I love that this is a real word, that somewhere along the way someone looked at books and said, these are medicine, and they were not wrong. 6 minutes, 68% stress reduction. That's not poetry, that's a prescription.
Empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person, to step into their experience and feel it as if it were your own.
Empathy. This is the word the world needs more of right now. And the fact that you can build it, quietly, alone, on a Sunday afternoon with a book, that feels like the most hopeful thing I've heard in a very long time.
Theory of mind, the cognitive ability to understand that other people have their own thoughts, beliefs, and emotional experiences that are entirely separate from your own.
Theory of mind. And fiction builds it. Every character you inhabit, every perspective you live inside for 300 pages, your brain is training itself to understand other people without you even realizing it's doing anything at all.
Vocabulary, the full range of words a person knows and uses, and in the context of language learning, the living, breathing collection of words you have met in context and made your own.
Vocabulary. Not a list, not flashcards, a collection of words you have felt. Words that arrived during a story that mattered and stayed because they had somewhere to attach to. That's real vocabulary. That's the kind that lasts.
Immersed, to be completely and deeply involved in something, to be so absorbed that the outside world temporarily disappears.
Immersed. Yes, that's the word for what happens when a book is working. Not reading, not studying, just immersed, gone, fully inside somewhere else. And when you surface, you're different, slightly, quietly, permanently.
Articulate, able to express thoughts and feelings clearly, precisely, and fluently in a way that others can understand and feel.
Articulate. People who read are more articulate, not because they memorized more words, but because they've seen more ways that words can be arranged, more ways that an idea can be held, more ways that one human being can reach across the silence and make another human being feel understood.
And that last sentence is exactly what reading does.
It is, isn't it?
I want to say something before we close.
Go ahead.
There's a 14-year research study that found frequent reading leads to a slower rate of cognitive decline as we age. 14 years. And the people who read regularly kept their minds sharper, clearer, and more engaged longer than those who did not.
Reading doesn't just change who you are now, it protects who you will be.
It protects who you will be. Every book is an investment in your empathy, your vocabulary, your stress levels, your brain, your ability to understand the person sitting across from you who is nothing like you and everything like you.
And for every English learner listening right now, every page you read in English is doing something you can't fully see yet. It's building a version of you that speaks more naturally, thinks more clearly, reaches for the right word more easily, not because you studied, because you lived inside the language.
20 minutes a day, one chapter, a few pages.
That's all it takes to begin.
If this episode helped your English today, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We drop new episodes every week to help you improve your English, and you don't want to miss what's coming next.
And tonight, if there's a book somewhere in your home that's been waiting for you, pick it up.
It has been patient.
Books always are.
Keep your English sharp.
And keep showing up.
One page at a time.
One page at a time.